That is off a single cast of Bone Spirit on a not that big monster. And if you didn't know, regenerating almost the entirety of our 152 essence by hitting a creature with a skill that says spend all of your essence is pretty impressive. Now, the wild part about it is that this isn't because I'm a well-tuned Bone Spirit build or Bone Spirit build. This is just what Bone Spirit does now, and why it is the best essence battery in the game as early as the first season's journey reward, when you gain access to a pretty interesting aspect added in Season 3. And this is why you should be running this on every single leveling build, regardless of what other skills you use. Blood builds, darkness builds, Bone Spirit, doesn't matter. You should be running Shattered Spirit and Bone Spirit on your build to basically solve all of your essence issues. The Shattered Spirits aspect, which says that Bone Spirit is going to launch 18 bone splinters, dealing additional damage, which is not that important, but every single one of them that hits an enemy generates 6 essence. And then on top of that, the actual base skill of Bone Spirit, when using the Dreadful modifier, says that you'll regen 30% of your maximum essence over the next 4 seconds. Something that previously said a flat 30 essence value has now been changed to a percentage. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that you should literally be putting a single point into Bone Spirit, the enhancement, and then Dreadful Bone Spirit, and running Shattered Circle on every single Necromancer build that wants to be able to generate essence proactively. And you just need to find your least valuable skill and sacrifice it to be able to run this instead. Now, most people, when speed farming this early in the game, especially on things like Blood Surge, are going to be using Iron Maiden and Enhanced Iron Maiden. In fact, I was using that myself. And so wasn't my moderator, Trev, who's been playing with me. He's on a Blood Surge Necromancer. But the moment that I threw on Shattered and Dreadful Bone Spirit just to run it as a one-of on my Bone Spirit leveling build, I immediately abandoned Iron Maiden, because everything that Iron Maiden does, Bone Spirit with Shattered does better. And I know that sounds absolutely wild, but let me just walk you through the logic very quickly. When you cast Bone Spirit, it's going to generate 18 bone splinters that are going to shoot out, and they act just in the same way that a normal bone splinter would. Bone splinters can shotgun, meaning multiple of them can hit a single target at the same time. They don't pierce, so it's not going to go through and hit multiple enemies over and over. But 2, 3, even 4 of them can all hit the same target if it's large enough. Even on smaller enemies, if you are literally right next to them, you can hit them with 2 or 3. So if we were to walk up to this big old shaman right here and get to walk down to us, just try to very quickly picture how many of the bone splinters fly out to the walls as opposed to do not fly past him when I cast this. Bam! You'll see this entire section of the full rotation. Oh, and I'm going to go ahead and die. That's okay. But the basically a sixth of our total rotation of bone splinters coming out in a perfect circle around us did not fly past him. So that's 3 splinters even into this medium-sized opponent right here. That's going to become very important when we look at the rest of what it does. Hitting an enemy with 3 of your bone splinters is going to generate 18 essence. Bare minimum, that's already fairly decent when you consider the fact that bone splinters itself, if you were to hit all 3 of them into the same target, would generate you 21 essence. So this is bare minimum, just as good as just casting bone splinters one time. And then the other shards can go on to hit other targets, etc., etc. But it's that 30% of our maximum essence, when we combine this with Dreadful, that really starts to add up to significant amounts. Right now, I have 152 essence. Now, the majority of players are not going to have this much essence at this point, right? You're probably going to be sitting around the 100 essence mark, or if you had to put in at least 1 point into your skill tree to be able to pick up Unliving Energy here, you'd be at 103 essence. So let's just go ahead and say you're at the minimum. You don't have any on your gear, etc. That means that Dreadful Bone Spirit is generating 31 essence just for having the Bone Spirit hit a target. So if it generates 31 by itself, and it generates 18 by 3 of those missiles hitting it, means that all in total, if you have no other investment, you're generating 49 essence every single time that you cast Bone Spirit. Now, I hear you already. Mac, Bone Spirit says it eats all of your essence when you cast it, you're going to go negative. Well, what you got to remember is that Bone Spirit doesn't need to consume your essence to be able to cast it. And it doesn't need to be able to consume your essence to hit a target. It doesn't need to consume your essence for the Bone Splinters to hit. You can cast this skill with no essence in the tank at all for free, and then net gain 49 essence against a single target. Iron Maiden will generate 5 essence per target hit that isn't already cursed, and you can only recurse them every 10 seconds. So that means that, let's say you had 10 enemies, right? Once per 10 seconds, you can generate 50 essence. And as they die out, you generate less and less and less essence. Once you get down to one opponent, you only generate 5 essence every time that you would cast Iron Maiden. So this quick tool for being able to generate essence, while phenomenal on density, in realistic scenarios is going to either like cap you out near the top of your essence, or against a single target be abysmally terrible in the exact same way. Bone Splinters, with its 18 shards coming out against those same 10 enemies. Let's say they don't even all hit, right? Let's just say half of them hit. Half of your circle hits the enemies in front of you. That's 9 shards, each generating 6 essence. That's 54 essence. Plus the 31 that you're going to generate when the Bone Spirit actually hits a target. 54 plus the 31, it's 87 essence, bare minimum. Fighting the exact same pack of monsters. So 50 versus over 80 essence on the exact same pack of monsters. So against density, it's better than Iron Maiden. And against a single target, it's worth its weight in gold of Iron Maidens. And you basically run it for free because it's that good at generating essence. It's better than a minimum Codex of Power roll on Umbral, which is only 1, even if you're using it with Corpse Tendrils. Corpse Tendrils will proc Umbral 3 times against a single target for the slow, the pull, and then the stun. So if you had 10 enemies there, you would generate 30 essence for Umbral, as opposed to the over 80 essence that you would generate with Bone Spirit. It's significantly better than the Torment aspect, although that being said, you can actually just use Torment aspect along with it. Oh, and the other awesome part is that every one of these Bone Splinters has the opportunity to actually trigger Exposed Flesh. I actually went through and tested just about everything that I can think of that it does and does not trigger of, so I'm just going to kind of rattle those off for you right now. But the only thing that I'm currently missing is Blood Artisan's Cuirass. I just haven't dropped one yet, I'm only level 70. And there is a universe where the Blood Artisan's Cuirass, free casting a Bone Spirit for you, will free trigger a Shattered Spirit for you, and that opens up a pretty wild combination of total things that you can do with this thing. But until I have that for certain, I'm not going to sit here and try to gas you up on it. But let me go through a list of things that I have tested here on stream that absolutely work with the Bone Splinters, which are shooting out of Shattered Spirit as far as I can tell. So the first thing here is that it is going to be reading the rank of your Bone Splinters. So if you have 5 ranks in Bone Splinters, you're going to be doing more damage than if you only had 1 rank in Bone Splinters. So at the very least, it's working like other things that say trigger a free cast of something. So the interesting part is that it does not trigger Acolyte's Bone Splinters or Initiate's Bone Splinters. Every individual Bone Splinter can trigger both the Enhanced Decrepified would be able to apply stun, and much more importantly, trigger Abhorrent Decrepify for being able to reduce cooldowns. Now here's a very short list of things that are not desynergistic, because again, you're just literally using this as a mana battery regardless of what your build is. But for people who want a better understanding of how the damage is going to work, most notably with things like Ossified Essence and Serration, and then the Serration aspect as well. The way that this works is that you are going to cast Bone Spirit. Bone Spirit requires you to spend all of your essence to cast it, and then the Bone Splinters are generated. If you're to watch this in slow-mo, you'll see that all this goes away before any one of these missiles is generated. Because of that, the missiles are generated when you have 0 essence. What does that mean for you? Well, that means that generating them this way, again, I don't have Blood Artisan's Cuirass to test it, but it is considered to have 0 essence for this damage multiplier here, Ossified Essence. So it's basically no bonus here at all at the point of casting them. So while the Bone Spirit will get that bonus if you are using it for damage like I am, but the Bone Splinters that proc out of it will not. Similarly, Serration will also read you as having no essence on cast for the Bone Splinters, so they will not gain any additional crit chance from this. Likewise, the Serration aspect that says that you do additional damage based off of your essence, when you have Ossified Essence as your key passive, that will also read you as having no essence at this point. So the Bone Splinters, at least from here, are not going to be able to scale well with the typical things that you would use on your build to scale the rest of your bone skill damage. And just for the people who are already thinking ahead and wanted to know, Torment does not change the amount of essence that is gained from using Dreadful Bone Spirit in this way. So the Dreadful Bone Spirit, which will generate 30% essence over 4 seconds, Torment does not further increase that. Torment only changes your base essence regeneration, which is this stat right down here, which is only modified by your willpower and things that say modifies essence regeneration. Again, namely Torment. So it will not like double dip here and get you an excessive amount of essence. That's why you want to be using Exposed Flesh. If you are any build that's applying Vulnerable, you should just be using this. And that actually brings me to my last point. All of this is just in the Season's Journey or in your Codex of Power. And you can add on another little thing here to make it even more efficient and more effective, and basically just use Bone Spirit as a dump tool for just getting additional damage. And that's when you start throwing on things like the new buffed Swelling Curse here for the additional crit chance and increasing your maximum essence every single time that you hit a target with Bone Spirit. Meaning the next time that you cast Bone Spirit, you will regenerate more essence because your maximum essence will have been increased by using it the first time. Just completing chapter 1 of the Season's Journey will get you Shattered Spirit. It doesn't matter that it's a min roll on the damage. We literally don't care about that at all. We just care about the essence on hit. If you're playing in the Eternal Realm, you will just have to go drop this resource aspect. Sadly, they originally called this an offensive aspect, thinking that you could put it onto other pieces of gear. You just can't. It is a resource aspect, so it will be regulated to one of your ring slots. But Chapter 1 of the Season's Journey, you already have access to this. You're basically on your way. Season's Journey 2 gets you Exposed Flesh, which even at a minimum roll of 30 is disgusting considering most builds on the Necromancer with Corpse Tendrils or with Sever or even with your little Seneschal Companion applying it has effectively 100% uptime on Vulnerable, and anything that you use to hit it will be able to regain you essence. And each one of these Bone Splinters, again, can trigger Exposed Flesh individually. You can effectively refill your essence multiple times over just from the Bone Splinters triggering this, while ignoring the Dreadful Bone Spirit as well as the inherent 6 essence that they generate naturally. And then Torment also is one of your Codex of Power aspects. You can put this down on your other ring if you don't have Exposed Flesh yet, or if you're playing again on Eternal and you can't go just get Exposed Flesh from your Season's Journey, you can just swap on to Aspect of Torment and bare minimum Bone Spirit, which has a huge chance to crit, will just net you this 90% increase to your essence regeneration for 4 seconds on top of Dreadful Bone Spirit, on top of the essence gen from the Bone Splinters. You see how this thing is an absolutely ridiculous battery, kind of regardless of what build you put it on. The thing that I find the most interesting here is actually while we were reworking the tier lists on Max Roll, I wanted to bump Bone Spear up a tier. Bone Spear is a really, really powerful build once you have everything online. Its biggest issue, though, is that it suffers so poorly in being able to generate essence at an efficient rate, even when you use something like Iron Maiden, because it just doesn't really have the chops to be able to output enough damage. It's really gear dependent, etc. And I figured that with the addition of the Seneschal Companion being able to generate resource every single time that he uses an attack, that would bump up Bone Spear bare minimum. It would just be kind of like good enough at that point. But with the addition of Exposed Flesh in the Season's Journey, just being able to have Torment whenever you want, and again, just being able to freely slot on a 1 rank Bone Spirit, be able to generate this much essence, I've had no issue at all keeping my essence completely topped off in every single fight. And again, the moment that you get to a boss where you normally struggle, like, you know, between casting Bone Spear and needing to be really close to be able to cast Bone Splinters, but you want to be at max range to cast Bone Spear, I just walk up to the boss, cast Bone Spear at 1 time, all of them hit the boss simultaneously, and I'm fully capped, evade back, and just empty my entire globe in Bone Spears. And by that time, if I have had to do that more than like 2 or 3 times, we're either in a ridiculous nightmare dungeon at this point, or the boss is dead. So with all of this put together, if you are somebody who has like always hated leveling on Bone Spear and you haven't given it a shot, I would highly recommend this as a season starter. Do I think it's going to beat Blood Surge in Dopamine Tunnels? No, but I'm also not a lunatic enough to be able to just run Dopamine Tunnels until I'm fully leveled. And if I'll be quite honest with you, you, I hate just having to tell every single person like, hey, level is Blood Surge, then go play a real build. You'll get to it eventually. Just being able to put on this one skill, 3 skill points is all that you need to sacrifice. Dropping it onto your skill bar and just alleviating all of your essence problems is disgusting. And you're going to be hearing a lot of people just like screaming the virtues of this combo for the next week or so, as everybody is still getting their characters leveled up and getting ready for the gauntlet. So I just want to put out this video talking about like, A, what I've tested, B, what my experience has been with it, and C, just to give you an idea of what we're doing with it in case you hadn't thought of this or you haven't come across it yet, or maybe you were just wondering like, hey, can I do this? There you go. Here's my stamp of approval. Definitely try it out. Again, regardless of build. Blood Surge, Blood Lance, Sever, Blight, any of them. Just put this thing on there and just wield the power of near infinite mana whenever you want. As always, let me know what you think down in the comments. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a ton. And if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the video as well, if you learned something, if you didn't think of something, or hey, if you just enjoyed listening to me ramble on about this video game at the end of my 18-hour stream, dear God. It is 6:30 in the morning, but thank you so much for watching this video. I truly hope that it helps you enjoy the beginning of your Season 3 in Diablo 4, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.